So, welcome back to another Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast, the show that helps coaches and consultants grow their business and attract premium clients through podcasting, whether that's by hosting your own show or being a guest on others. Now, today's episode is quite a powerful one. I'm joined by Pape, also known as Santa for Nerds. And if you're a creative entrepreneur or you work with them, you're going to love this because Paul is a coach who helps artistic minds finally crack the business side of things without sacrificing who they are. So we're going to dive into why creative entrepreneurs fail at business. And it's not what you think. Paul breaks down how he uses gaming-inspired frameworks to take big, intimidating business concepts and turn them into something that actually makes sense for creative brains. So if you've felt like you just don't think like a business person, or your clients say that this conversation is going to give you a whole new way of looking at things. And make sure you stick around to the end of the episode, because after the break, after the ads, I will be sharing a quick tip on how to pitch yourself as a podcast guest and actually get booked on the shows that matter. But first, let's dive in. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Thank you for having me, Karen. I appreciate it.
Gaming. Okay,
Yeah.
there's got to be a story there somewhere.
There is.
So what was the inspiration behind you doing what you're doing?
So for 20 years, I was Santa for Nerds. I still am. I'm Santa for Nerds. And while I was doing that, I was performing on a platform called Twitch, which is mostly known for gamers, but there's about 20% of them who are actually creatives. And I would spend 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, sometimes six, doing my work, but I would do it with a live camera and I would interact with people who would come and watch. And what I realized throughout all of that is that a lot of creatives were like, how are you successful? How do I figure out what to charge? How do I know this, that, and the other thing about creative business? And so I would just sit there and answer their questions because I needed something to fill the time. And then eventually I was like, why don't I train people in this? Why don't I coach it? Because the reality is 97% of people who pursue a creative adventure end up dropping out. They end up not doing it because they don't know what they're doing. And so I was just coaching people with the methodologies that I was using myself. And then I got a client it was 3 people that ran the business, and they were grossing about $1.2 million. So fairly successful, but they were netting about $50,000. So huge discrepancy. And so they brought me in to see if we could help them out. And so the first thing I did is I went out and met with them and I said, explain to me who does what in the business. And they said, we all do everything. And I said, well, that's a surefire way to fail at business. Nobody can do everything. You all have to have your own lane and you have to support each other. I said, how about this? Tomorrow, they're huge gaming nerds. One guy used to work for Blizzard, worked on World of Warcraft. They're all just big gaming nerds. And I said, how about tomorrow I come back? Because I love to customize things for my clients. And I said, why don't we play Dungeons and Dragons Business Edition? And what I'll do is I'll have you create a character, but instead of a warrior or a wizard, you're going to be your role in the business. And I will come up with challenges so that when you encounter it, only the person who is specialty can conquer this creature or this problem will be the lead in the game. And so we sat down, we actually played it for about 4 hours. And in playing it, it's all improv. I played a game master and I was just walking them through this. I saw light bulbs going off and they're like, I finally understand business. I'm like, yeah, you do. And it wasn't that they've been doing it for 12 years. They were making the money. They just weren't able to keep it because they were missing some fundamentals because they were just winging it. They didn't know what they were doing. And so after that, we saw them increase their business. So now they're netting about $850,000. It's a huge difference because they now understood it. So what I did, so that dawned on me. I'm like, gaming, we all game. I've been gaming since I was a kid. I'm 50 years old. I've been gaming since I was 6 years old. And a lot of people, and my kids, they have devices and all that, and they understand what it takes to take a character from level zero, up to level 10. We all understand that process. It's the exact same thing in business. Exact same thing. You just have to change the framework a little bit. And the other thing is my kids especially, they like to 100% games, which is you go and do every aspect of the game so you can get 100% on it. If we applied even 60% of that motivation into our actual businesses, we would be super successful. But the thing is, business isn't fun. It should be, but it's not. And so what I did is I created this so that business becomes an adventure and you're the hero of the story. And so why don't we go out there and live our best adventure and make the most money and the most profit off of that?
I love that. Who knew? A lot of parents out there might be thinking, I'm telling my kids, I wish they wouldn't spend so much time gaming, right? Because you think it's not productive and they're wasting the time. But you found a way, from what it sounds like, to actually will turn all that knowledge and that skill set and put it into business. And what I'm hearing from you is really that, yeah, we can't do everything in the business, and you do need to have a team that specializes in different parts of it. Because yeah, I know when people start out in business, yeah, you have to wear all the hats. You don't come into it unless you've been able to outsource from the beginning. But most people start their businesses as solopreneurs, and they've got to wear the hat as HR, you've got to wear the hat as the marketing team, then you've got to wear the hat of coach. Whereas what you're saying is working with the teams themselves and giving them specific roles and making it, I love that, because you're right, business can actually be fun. Do you think we all just take it all too seriously?
Oh, 100%. And what I find is, and you hit the nail on the head, even as solopreneurs, we do have to have a support team. In the book, I call them pocket people. And they're the people that when there's something I need, they don't work for me, but like full time. But if I need their help, they're there and I can hire them out to assist me. Solopreneurs or people who are starting out businesses, they do have to wear all the hats. And what happens is that we put on this armor of we have to be perfect and we have no flaws. And so it's a joke that I always say when I do a podcast is that entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, we never make mistakes because we're perfect, but we all know that we're not. And so what's great about this system is that we create a character sheet. And what that does is it's you in your game, but it creates just enough of a separation that you don't have to admit that you have flaws. You can say, my character has flaws. And yeah, exactly. And what it does is it gives you that introspection so that you're still the superhero that you think you are as the entrepreneur, the solopreneur, but you can recognize internally where you need to find support. And that's really what it is. It's not a deficiency. It's not that you're failing at something. It's just that nobody is good at everything. You have to try and do all of it when you're first starting out, but eventually you're going to be like, that person's better at this. And if I spent a little bit of money paying them, my business can grow astronomically because they're putting in their best effort on something that they're great at. And then I can concentrate on the stuff that I'm great at to make my business go forward.
Oh, absolutely. And it is going to be the only way to scale. I think people are kidding themselves if they think they can continue trying to wear all the hats and half of the hats just do not fit. Accept it. I've accepted my strengths. I know my weaknesses. And yeah, that is the beauty that you can, especially these days. It's very easy. What do you call them? Pocket people. Love that.
Pocket people. And that's actually the funny thing. When I was writing this book, I was working with a book coach, and when I got it done, she said, have you ever done your own book? Gone through it? And I was like, why would I do that? I wrote it. And she said, I want you to do it. Just take a week and do it. And I did it. And I actually learned things about myself because I took it seriously. And I was like, oh, wow. And so then I immediately went out and hired the people that I thought I was like, I could definitely be spending my time in better places, because you break it down into the things that you love and the things that you don't, that you're good at and you like to do. And then the things that you just don't like to do, even though you may be good at them or you're not. And I just found those people. And I was like, how eye-opening it was it that even me, the guy who wrote the book, is, oh, I can learn something here.
There you go. And it is a case of going over it again and again. Everybody thinks they're going to get it all with reading one book one time. You read it again, you've missed things. You've probably forgotten half some of the stuff you even wrote in it. Love that. So what is it? Why? So what is the big secret? No, people, it's not what you think. So why do you think most businesses are failing?
I think it's because they're not honest with who they are and what they're offering. Because honestly, it comes down to two questions that I always ask every client that I have. And it's actually in chapter 1. It's, what are you passionate about? Because the end is, when you have a business, it's not about money and it's not about fame. Those things are results of doing good at your business. But there are going to be times in your business where you have neither of those things. And if you don't have passion behind it, you're going to quit. So the
Mm-hmm.
first question is, what are you passionate about? The second one is, what do you do with that passion that nobody else does? That answer, if you're honest with yourself, that answer is the seed to your entire business. And we think that we need to have millions of likes on social media, that we need to have this huge million-person following, but the reality is we don't. We need a lot less than that. 100 people is what we talk about it in the book. You share 100 people that you're super fans. If you can appeal to them through your passion, then you're going to be made, because those people will then spread your passion like a wildfire to other people. And that's always going to be the same 100 people, but that's what you need to start with. So instead of trying to appeal to everybody, appeal to that niche that you're really passionate about. Because when you talk to them about it, or when you're advertising your product about it and you're passionate, they're going to get hyped up as well, and they will support you.
Love that. And that I do see that as a massive issue. Everyone's trying to go viral. They're going for the likes and to me it's just ego metrics that doesn't actually pay the bills. It doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to come and buy your stuff. It's actually not as relevant as people think. But I don't know what's going on these days is that we have been conditioned to feel that if we're not getting the likes, the comments, the shares, then we're failing. But this is the beauty of podcasting, right? Because you realize that, oh, they're listening. So then you get to show up for those who do listen. So it doesn't matter if they're not interested. But the difference with on social media, people are just scrolling, aren't they? You don't get to
Yeah.
hold the attention of anybody. Whereas like here, you get to hold the attention of the right people. So for you, what would you say is can you break down your process then, how you help people increase their business?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do is, the first thing that we do is we do a character sheet, like we talked about earlier. And this is an introspection on yourself. And the key to it is no one's going to see this but you. Okay. So you've got to be honest with yourself, like deep down honest with yourself. There's no one here who's going to judge you for these answers. Just be as honest as you can. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you a framework for success. Once we have that, then if you want to find pocket people, or if you have employees, they fill out the same sheet. Then here's the key, the biggest key, and especially with creative people, because creative people like to surround themselves with like-minded creative people. But a bunch of the same people are not a success. Okay. In gaming, we'd say you don't want 5 warriors because you're going to wipe. It means you're going to fail, because you need a wizard, you need a healer, you need all these other things to help support you. And when we surround ourselves with like-minded people, we just surround ourselves with an echo chamber or a series of yes men. What we need to do is we need to find people who complement you, not who agree with you. And so sometimes you may not be friends outside of the office. That's okay. But if they can support you in ways that will actually help to make the business better, it's ideal. And so everyone fills out their character sheet, and then we understand where everybody falls on a sliding scale. Now, for those of you listening who know RPGs, role-playing games, you know that usually you roll a die to say, oh, I've got a 12 in strength or whatever. That's not the case here, because we can't just roll a die and make ourselves a specific level of great. And so what we do instead is we look at a sliding scale of extremes. So are you classically trained, or are you just winging it and figuring it out as you go along? Do you like to think linearly, or do you like to think amorphous and whatever? Do you like rules, or do you like to not be following the rules at all? Out of the box thinker. And it's a sliding scale. And so what you do is you try to find people wherever you fell on the scale, you want them on the opposite end. And those people are going to be the complement to you, because not everyone is a leader. A lot of people don't like to be the forward face of their business. But if you can find somebody who loves to do that, then put them in that role. And so that's the second thing. So we do finding a group, which if you're watching this on a video, this entire thing is a tavern. And that's because in a role-playing game, that's where you meet your group. You meet them in the tavern. And as the tavern master, I'm the game master, or the tavern keep. I'm the one who knows all the weird information, because I listen to all the conversations that are happening. So that's why we're here. But then once we find our group, then we go out and we actually start to do the adventuring. And that's what business should be. It should be an adventure. And so what we do is we look at the challenges that you face as a business, and we create specific scenarios in which you can role play through what you need to do. The key, though, is to not role play imagination, because the reality is you're trying to run a business. We want to do this in real life. And so what we do is we put up real life situations that you will encounter. And in the back of the book, we actually have a monster manual of things like the scope creeper, which if you're a designer and you've got somebody who's ever hired you before, and then they're like, what if we did this? And what if we did this? And what if we did this? They're slowly creeping up on that scope and you're doing more work and earning less money. So you need to recognize that monster and how to deal with it. And these are all the things that we tackle within it. So we create the adventure. And then I don't usually tell people this right off the bat, but there's a workbook that goes with this. And if you fill it all out, you actually have a business plan. Now, if I told you right off the bat, hey, I'm going to want you to do this book so that you can get a business plan, you'd be like, I don't want to do a business plan. But if I said, hey, we're going to play this game and we're going to do a lot of thinking, we're going to do some role playing, we're going to do some adventuring, you'd be like, okay. And then at the end, I'm like, okay, congratulations, you have a business plan. But not only that, you have a 90-day plan of action to earn real world money if you follow this rule, if you follow the track of it. Then you'd be like, oh, wow, I fell into this. And now I've got this beautiful treasure that's in front of me that'll allow me to take my business to the next level.
Brilliant. I love it because, yeah, you're right. And maybe this is the thing. A lot of business owners, especially if they're maybe more the creative souls, right? The idea of doing a business plan, oh, yeah, no thanks. The admin stuff, all that kind of stuff isn't going to be their thing, right? So you've flipped it on its head, made it fun to actually do. And the
Yeah.
byproduct of gaming of going through this system is you'll actually get a business plan at the end of it that you can follow because nobody wants to set out and do that. So I love that. Yeah, very interesting. So what are some of the things you think that keep people stuck? You've mentioned a couple things there of which I can, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. You naturally want to grow your team. You're going to go for people who are like-minded. And so you've already said that's one. That's not the way to go because you need people to complement your skill set and maybe the ones that maybe want to do a business plan or want to do the admin side, the things that you don't want to do. But what else do you think is one of the reasons that a lot of businesses, they're not quite getting there at the moment?
Well, I think a big misunderstanding, especially for entrepreneurs, is they come up with this great idea of something that they want to sell. And so their initial idea, because we're inundated with commercials everywhere that we go, is to shove the product in someone's face and say, buy it. But the reality is people do not buy products, they buy emotions. Like you need to appeal to your clients on an emotional level and not try to sell them. So I have a phrase that's don't sell, quit selling your crap, sell yourself. Okay. I use shit. I like to say shit because it's more of an impact. It's a firmer word. Stop selling your shit, sell yourself. And the reality is that's what we need to do, especially as a smaller business or as a creative based business. We're not Nike. We're not McDonald's. We're not these places that are going to go out and have millions and millions of dollars to appeal to and who just shotgun approach advertising and trying to market. The idea is you want to appeal to people specifically, your 100 people. And so you, instead of being buy my stuff, tell them who you are. Stand, especially creative, especially artists, they don't want to stand on the forefront of their work. They want their work to hide behind. And with entrepreneurs, it's the same thing. They're like, I made this cool thing, now buy it from me. But the idea is, I made this because I had a reason to. Something from your past, your story, is really what got you to where you're at. And if we approached selling that way, you're going to be way more successful. I'm Santa for nerds. I say that word out. That's my full-time job, Santa for nerds. And people are like, I know what a Santa is. I know what a nerd is. I don't know what Santa for nerds is, but now I'm curious. And then I tell them a little bit about my story and they're like, wow, I'm not selling them anything. I just tell them what I do. And they're like, I am invested now. It's the same thing with games. It's that you're invested in the story of it. So why not play the game of your own life and be really invested in it and then tell everybody about it? Be the bard in your group who goes out and sings the stories of the wonderful tales that you've done throughout your adventure. That's actually what the second book is about, The Game Master's Guide, is it teaches you the ability of storytelling. Because that's really, when I'm dealing with a woman right now, she's an actuary. She invented software for doing taxes and paperwork. It's It's boring. But she did it because her mom's business was struggling to figure out where everybody was being paid. And so she took it on herself to help her mom to understand the business, to seize it all up. And now she's looking for funding. And I've got my pricing deck. It's all ready to go. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to tell them all my numbers and this is what I need. And this is why I need investors. And I'm like, if you went out there and told them that you started this because of your mom, you're helping out your mother, and that's where this idea came from, and you could help other families who are struggling because they don't understand it, you're going to get more funding than you ever will saying, I think I can get to this metric by this date because we've raised this much funding. That's the reality of it.
Fantastic. And that is, I think a lot of people, you're right, people, they hide. They don't want to share their story. I think from years ago, because everyone used to I don't know, things used to be very fake. It was all about what they've achieved, their successes, the pictures of the Lamborghini behind, and then all fake, right? Maybe not all of it, but it was all, people felt that they had to put up this front of this successful person and nobody wants to hear their story. But yeah, I'm with you. The opposite, I think, is true, because otherwise, if you're up there, so ultra successful, the little person who is down here, they're too big a gap. They're not going to resonate with you, and they're not really going to think that person over there can actually help me. But when they share their story and it starts back down where the listener is, they're going to resonate more. And I think they've just been too afraid to be vulnerable, to share the real story, the real raw. Nobody gets there instantly. Nobody has a straight line up to their success. It's and that, and all the way like that. That's my one. And I think it's important for people to hear the real stuff, because then you're showing how you overcame that stuff, and that gives this person over here hope. It gives them that reality check that I don't have to stay here. They did it, so maybe I can too. It gives people more hope rather than just going on about the achievements and the successes you've had. Or boring.
Yeah.
Nobody
And the
wants
reality is two things to that is that failure is a natural step in success. Because you cannot learn from doing something right. You only learn from messing up. That's how we're programmed from the lizard on up. We learn from screwing up. And my book's actually filled with many anecdotes of me screwing up, and then take this lesson, don't do it. But here's why I want you to understand this. That's one of them. And also, in the age of AI, with everything AI, I'm going to have AI write my copy. I'm going to have AI write my ads. I'm going to have AI do this. Like, how much better is it to know that you're connecting with somebody who's super real, who's vulnerable, I'm a human with human conditions, who's doing a human experience, and I would like to bring you in. And again, if you're talking to your 100 super fans, if you're concentrating on the people who actually want your object or the thing that you're selling, that connection is going to deepen their desire to want to help and support you.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I do believe that AI is, and don't get me wrong, I use it for tasks. It helps, it saves me time with a lot of things. I'm not dissing AI, but because of it, I think the more real people show themselves to be, they are going to end up being more successful, because people can see through these AI written posts, whatever, or even courses just written by AI. They need that human to human interaction, I think, even more as things are going to go. So if there's people out there right now that are like, okay, maybe I've been growing my team not quite in the right way, this sounds like a fun idea, what should the listeners do next?
If you would like to check out what I offer, a try it before you buy it type situation, if you go to gamifybusiness.com/podcast, you can actually download the first 2 chapters. And that gives you an idea of how I approach this. And you can also, and if you're past that and you're like, no, I'd like to bring you in, you can either buy the books and do it yourself, self-led. They are written to be self-led, or you can hire me as a coach and consultant. And then I tailor it to be exactly for your business. That's the whole point. I spent 20 years doing custom stuff, my entire business. And I was told for 20 years, you can't just customize every single thing. You have to have a blanket and everybody's got to like that or not like it. And I'm like, no, I'm going to customize it because that's what I want to do. And so I'm like, the business is also customized. So because it's your adventure, not the adventure. And so that's the idea. So if you would like to have it personalized for you, you can always hire me as a coach. All that information is on gamifybusiness.com.
Love that. And so if you're driving and listening to this, don't worry, go back to the show notes. All of Paul's details will be in there. And I'm going to suggest that with your character, you don't like the rules then either.
Nope.
I'm with you there. See, there you go. You can build your own business in whatever way you want to. And it doesn't have to be a chore. It can actually be fun. Paul, there you go. It's been fun. It's been great having you on. Very interesting. I think I might go and have a look at that myself. And to the listeners, I will be back after the break where I'll be giving you my top tip on how to pitch to get on the podcast that you want to get on. I'll be back after the break. Bye for now. So I'm back with my tip on how to pitch yourself as a podcast guest without feeling awkward or pushy. You know, that moment, you've got the tab open, you've got your email half written, you're about to pitch yourself to be on someone's podcast, and you just sit there, overthinking every word, wondering if it sounds like too much, or worse, if it sounds like you're too much. I've been there. I remember sitting on a pitch for over 20 minutes. It wasn't even complicated, and I knew I could bring value to their audience. I'd listened to the show, I respected the host, and still I hesitated. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because that little voice crept in. Who do you think you are? And here's the crazy part. When I finally hit send, not only did they say yes, they thanked me. If you've ever held back from pitching yourself, trust me, you're not alone. So many brilliant coaches and consultants and service providers, they're sitting on stories and insights and powerful ideas because they're just waiting to be chosen. They tell themselves things like, oh, I don't want to come off as salesy, or my audience isn't big enough yet, or I don't have a media kit. So instead, they stay quiet. And unfortunately, opportunities pass them by. And meanwhile, podcast hosts, like, we're out there, right? Looking for great guests. We're not looking for perfect ones. We're not looking for famous ones. Just people who show up with clarity, they care, and they have a message that serves. For me, everything shifted when I stopped asking, am I good enough to pitch, and started asking, who needs to hear this right now? That one question flipped my fear into purpose, because pitching yourself isn't about self-promotion. It's about contribution. You're showing up to serve. You're not asking for a favor. You're offering value. You're not trying to impress. You're trying to connect. And here's the real lesson. The best podcast guests aren't always the most established. They're just the most clear. They know exactly who they serve, they know the problems that they solve, and they know how to start meaningful conversations around those things. And that is what hosts want. They don't want the hype, they don't want the fluff, they just want real value. So let's just talk mindset, because a lot of people secretly believe I have to be known to be invited. That's simply not true. You don't need a giant audience. You don't need the perfect pitch deck. You just need a clear message and the guts to share it. You don't get invited because you're popular. You get invited because you're intentional. So let's get into the how. Here's how to pitch yourself well. First of all, find podcasts that actually align. Don't just spray and pray. Look for shows that serve the people you already help, even if their audience is small but engaged. Now, record a short Loom video. This is the magic move. A quick 60-second Loom where you mention a specific episode that you loved, share what stood out to you, and offer a topic idea that their audience would genuinely benefit from. And most importantly, make it about them, about the host, right? Not about your backstory, not about your achievements. Make it a gift. Don't make your pitch a resume. Follow up once. If they don't respond, don't ghost yourself. Follow up a week later. Keep it short, kind, and pressure-free. That's it. No need to overcomplicate it. So here's my challenge for you. Don't wait to be discovered. Pick one podcast this week, just one. Record a short Loom, send it with care, and make it about them. Make it about the host. Because the longer you stay quiet, the longer people miss what you're here to say. And your next client, they might not be following you on Instagram, but they're definitely listening to someone else's show. So you get to borrow somebody else's audience. If you'd like to know more about how you can profit from guesting on other people's podcast, then go to podcastprofitsunleashed.com/free. I've got something very special for you. Until next week, goodbye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode on the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast. If you're